There are a lot of filmmaking tips here on YouTube. I have made videos covering hundreds of them, and I've watched videos probably covering into the tens of thousands of them. But there are 6 key tips that stand out to me. Not only because I think they give you a huge advantage when you are out filming videos, but also because I think they are far less discussed on this platform. And personally, I haven't seen anyone mention some of the tips that we're gonna go over. But they are things, now that I know them, every single time I shoot, they are at the forefront of almost every decision I make when I'm out filming. And once you know them, they are gonna completely change the way that you film every single time from this point on. So without anything else, let's get straight into these tips. The first thing is gonna be attaching an emotion to a scene. If you guys are out filming some like cinematic B-roll or something like that, attaching an emotion to a scene gives you such a good place to make decisions for everything for that scene there on out. It will even translate to things like your subject's body language. If they are a happy, high energy scene, maybe they are looking up and smiling and running. Maybe they're kind of a sad scene and they're looking down, serious face, maybe a couple of shots of them looking into lens. It's gonna just give you an instant better understanding of the scene at hand and the decisions that you need to be making around it. The next one is gonna be shooting shadow side or shooting backlit. If you ever out shooting it, normally in a natural environment, if you're shooting like a sunset, maybe golden hour, you are gonna most likely have to make the decision whether you should be shooting with the sun behind you, being the camera person, lighting up your subject, filling it in, making it super saturated, making all those colors bright and quite contrasty. Or the alternative option is to shoot backlit with the light source, being the sun normally, behind your subject, kind of shining into camera. Neither one is necessarily right or wrong, but I often find myself shooting backlit because it gives this really interesting look. Everything kind of becomes like soft and hazy. You have this interesting light coming into camera and you can get all these cool lens flares along with like the sun or light source being behind your subject and popping it out. It creates a much more interesting look if you ask me. The other thing is, if the sun is still quite high in the sky, and it's shooting right onto your subject, it's not going to be very flattering at all. And if it's behind your subject and you have this shadow side that you're filming and the light is here, it creates so much more depth in that image, not to mention that it's just more flattering for any face or anything like that. But the depth that you create in your image by having that dark side and then the light side and the light source behind you, in my opinion, often looks way, way better. Like I said, this isn't a hard rule that you have to stick to, but knowing that you have the 2 different options with the same light conditions is extremely helpful when you're deciding how you want to shoot. Sometimes the sun is a little bit too high and harsh, and it's gonna make your image look quite silhouette-y, and it's not always the best. What I like to do then, it's still shooting shadow side, put the sun off to the side of my frame so that it's not actually included in my shot, but it's just off to the side, still shining from that general direction, but I don't have that crazy hot spot of the sun just being like super blown out, really testing my camera's dynamic range. So depending on the scenario, it doesn't mean you're looking directly at your light source. It can also just be on that side of the sphere that you're kind of looking towards. You can see this is the same scene at the same time of day, just shot, one with the sun behind the camera and one with the sun in front of the camera, shooting shadow side. You can choose which one you like more, you can mix it up and you can do both, but just so you're aware. The next one is gonna be sequences, not shots. Whenever I'm filming some cool cinematic B-roll or just things outside in general, I'm always trying to think in sequences rather than individual shots. It's all too easy to see something cool, capture one shot of it, something else cool, capture one shot of it. What ends up happening is you have a bunch of random different shots that have no correlation with each other, and it's kind of just this mash of things together. There's no follow through, there's no flow, and there's no like real story. So if I'm gonna shoot one shot, maybe I'm focusing on that one shot, but I'll pull back a little bit and think of a sequence that I can create around it. Maybe there's just one shot before it, a really big wide establishing shot, and then the cool shot that I wanted to film, and then maybe there's an ending shot. Or maybe it's just starting with a close-up, then the shot I wanted to, and then some other establishing shot. It doesn't really matter, but I'll think of different sequences of shots instead of individuals. A really nice, easy way to do this is just go wide, medium, close, of every single action that you're doing, even if you repeat that action 3 times and you get those 3 different angles for each one of those actions. The next one is gonna be using a mist filter. This one is more discussed, but I still wanted to include it in here because it's really important and I feel it makes a big difference. The amount of comments that I get on my YouTube videos saying, how do you get your thing so like smooth and soft, but still sharp, but still dreamy, but still like contrasty? It's because of a mist filter. A mist filter paired with some good lighting conditions really gives it off a nice look. So using a mist filter on your lens is something that I pretty much do every time I shoot. It pretty much lives on my lens and just creates that really nice haze. Generally, I'm not going too strong. I think I'm doing about 1/4, and that seems to be the sweet spot for me. You can see even in this shot right now, see how this little light here is like blooming out all crazy like that? Look, I'll show you. Without the mist filter, zero bloom. It doesn't look nearly as nice, and it's still, my whole face and everything is like sharper. There's no like cool haze and mist. It's just this, just a little mist filter. And watch as I put this on, look at that light. Looks way cool. And that exact same thing is going to be happening when you're shooting outside, even with natural light sources, the sun and everything like that. This is hugely beneficial if you want to shoot shadow side, like we mentioned before, because then even when you are looking into some harsher light, being the sun, it's just going to make it like bloom out and spread that light out. So it looks way, way better in my opinion. This mist filter lives on my camera pretty much. If you guys are enjoying these videos and are maybe a videographer that is interested in making money with your video, I actually just launched a completely free training program to find some of your value that will really ensure that you are able to land so many more clients. It's completely free. I'm giving this away as a way to say thank you to you guys. So you can check it out in the description. It's some video training about finding your quantifiable end result so that you can pitch way better to brands and companies about working with them, and I guarantee you it will help you land more clients like right now. So go and check it out. It's in the top of the description if it's something you're interested in. If not, let's move on to the next tip because it's a pretty good one. The next one is going to be the 70-30 rule. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite filmmaking tips. I didn't make it up. I heard it somewhere years and years ago, but I can't find any other people that have ever spoken about it or anything like that. So I'm not claiming it as my own, but it's a good one. So check this out. If you guys are aware of the 180-degree rule, if you're shooting a scene, you should split that scene, if I'm looking at you like this, into a half circle or 180 degrees. And generally, to go between shots, you should stay within that 180-degree rule. There's a weird thing that happens that, say if I'm filming this way, and then all of a sudden I spin around and film back onto myself, it doesn't really make sense to the viewer. It's kind of disorientating. Your subject is facing the opposite direction now, and it just doesn't really work. So staying on that side of the frame is something that you should definitely be doing, but that's not even the tip. The tip is the 70-30 rule. When you do want to change angle between 2 shots that are going to be used in a sequence next to each other, if you've ever seen you cut between one shot to the next and they're too similar to each other, it doesn't work, it doesn't flow, and you almost need a shot that is significantly different between the two. An easy way to make sure that the shots are different enough from each other is the 70-30 rule. And all the 70-30 means is either you need to be changing on that 180-degree half circle at least 70 degrees, or you need to be changing your focal length by at least 30 millimeters. So if you want to get a shot here and then you want to get your next one, you need to move along the circle at least 70 degrees to ensure that those 2 shots are different enough from each other for them to be played right next to each other. Or you can even stay on your same angle, but you need to punch in or out by at least 30 millimeters. And that's a really nice, easy way to just ensure that every time you're changing those shots that you're going to be using in sequence, they work next to each other without them being too similar. The last thing that we are going to discuss is something called eye tracking. And this is when you're editing. So you can use this for any of your old footage if you want to remake stuff, or you can use it for your future projects. But it's basically when you want to cut between 2 shots in your edit, taking note of where the viewer is most likely going to be looking on your frame. And if you've done a good job at composition, you should be leading their eyes to a certain point in that frame. If it is in the center of frame, for example, when you cut to the next shot, you should keep the focus of attention in the same position on your screen. If you have one shot where your action is happening over here and the viewer's eyes are gonna be looking down there on their screen, and then you cut to the next shot and the action's happening up here in the corner, what happens? The viewer has to go, oh, nothing's over there anymore. Let me look around the frame. Okay, I'm supposed to be looking over there. Oh, now it's the next clip. Let me look around frame. It's quite confusing and it doesn't flow smoothly. A lot of people use this technique and you probably won't notice it, but the edit will just feel a little bit smoother and it will flow a little bit better between each one of those shots because of this. You can move around from different shots to another one. When you are cutting from one to another, keep that focus of attention in the same place in the frame. So I might cut from a shot where there is a focus of attention here and it moves across frame. That's fine. Now the viewer's eyes are going to be here, and when I cut, I'm going to put my next shot's beginning focus right here as well, and then I can move it around. But as long as on those cuts, you try and keep the eye attention in the same place in that frame, it's going to make a huge difference. It's subtle, but wow, it makes a massive difference when you actually watch that edit back. So give it a try. That is going to be all 6 of what I think are some absolutely vital tips that will revolutionize the way that you film. Keep these in the forefront of your mind every time you film from now on. If you guys want to check out that free training, like I said, it's down in the description. Other than that, have fun. Bye.